Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Around the Nation. Jeff Waldorf here. Welcome to the show. So, we got a good show for you guys today on this Wednesday afternoon. So, I'll do the breakdown. First, of course, new name, same content as usual. So, hopefully, you guys like that. Waldorf Nation, it works, I guess. It kind of works. Doing a little bit of rebranding, guys. So we're kind of in the middle of this. In fact, we're going to be continuing over the next couple of months to rebrand, revamp, put some new graphics up, all that stuff, and really get the show set up towards an even better future. And so that's great. That's, again, thanks to you guys and gals who support us. It's great. By the way, the icon, the picture, right, that we use as our graphic, that was actually drawn by the Letterhead podcast. The guys over at that podcast, they do an excellent job with the art. I believe it's Matt Strackbean, and I just absolutely love that picture. I love that picture, and so I wanted to use that because it's awesome. And so I love it. So thank you to that, by the way. I do appreciate that. Okay. So anyway, before we get to the breakdown, couple of announcements, right? Well, actually just one. So we're going to be off for the rest of the week. So part of it is rebranding. The other part, of course, is spending time with my wife on her birthday. And so we don't get to spend a lot of time with each other. So she works mainly, she works second shift during the week, right? And, she just works second shift and then works during the weekends. So we almost never get time with each other whatsoever. And so for her birthday, we're going to spend some time with each other a couple of days because, again, we rarely get to. And so we'll be back on Monday. And so you guys... I know. Sad. Don't worry, you guys will be all right. You'll be all right. It's cool. We'll be back on Monday. And it was just, it's important, of course, to spend some time with your significant other. And we're not going to really be able to go out or do anything. But we'll be staying home, spending some quality time with each other, away from the politics. Thank you so much, everybody, for the happy birthdays for her. I do appreciate that. And she does well. Let's see. Nika, not your concern, says, happy B-Day, Jeff's wife. Thank you. Thank you for being an essential employee. It's tougher. So she works at basically a kind of like adult foster care Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, you can't just take time away from those people. They constantly have to be taken care of when it comes to, food, bathing, toileting, all that stuff. That's what she does. And it's difficult work. It's hard work. You don't get paid enough to do it. But somebody has to, because, oftentimes these families are either not willing or mostly not able to do so, because that is full-time work. And so, she doesn't get a lot of time off, obviously, or basically never gets any time off, because it's very difficult to do that. But she was able to get her birthday, and so we're going to spend that time with each other. So it's good stuff. All right. Thank you so much. I do appreciate all the kind words. She'll be incredibly happy to see that. All right. Rebranding. Why? Because it was time to rebrand. It was time to do so. It was time to kind of break out on my own a little bit. That said, still part of the TYT network, obviously. But, it's time to kind of claim my name and move forward and kind of distinguish myself as, not just some division of TYT, which we weren't really actually that at all, but like kind of like your own brand. Your name is your brand, right? I mean, Kyle Clancy has Secular Talk. Mike Figueredo, Humanist Report, right? I got Around the Nation. And so that's what we're doing on our channel, doing the rebrand and doing all that stuff. And so I feel good about this. It's going to be a great transition. Okay. Anyway, Dango Vango says, by Monday, I'll have to do a special 2-hour show just to get through the fraction of the damage our leaders have done to the country. Yeah, man. I know. There will be a lot of catch up. Definitely. And look, I'll be working on changing around the Facebook stuff and doing all that stuff. And so a lot of work ahead just to do a lot of the rebranding stuff. But I'm looking forward to getting it all done. All right. Anyway, so what are we going to talk about the show? Well, we've got Donald Trump versus affordable housing. How's that going? Representative Jayapal versus Bill Barr. That's a great story. I enjoy that. There's the Republican myth about the expanded unemployment benefits. What do the studies say about that? We have a workers' dispute when it comes to a very influential daytime talk show host. So we're going to talk about that. And then Louis Gohmert has coronavirus. Fun times. So let's do it. Jump in. All right. President Donald Trump is now bragging about the elimination of a rule meant to increase the prevalence of affordable housing in the suburbs. So now on Twitter, he wrote this: I'm happy to inform all the people living their suburban lifestyle dream, which, by the way, 40 million people are unemployed, that you will no longer be bothered or financially hurt by having low-income housing built in your neighborhood. Your housing prices will go up based on the market, and crime will go down. I've rescinded the Obama-Biden AFH rule. Enjoy. Okay. Oh, man. Finally, that affordable housing, what a bother. Having all those poor minorities have a shot at being near me. Which, by the way, it's actually pretty difficult to even get a home at this point for, a lot of people. It's very costly, and there's a lot of people that don't qualify for loans, especially now that we're kind of in an economic recession here. But that said, Trump supporters, super happy. Oh, they love it. And this is about the most honest that Donald Trump has ever been. He's literally saying, I don't like the poor. I don't like the poor. I don't want them in your neighborhoods. Fantastic. So now let me give you more details about this So he actually rescinded this rule last week, and now he's talking about it, right? And so now it's actually the affirmatively furthering fair housing rule. And it was an Obama administration, Obama Biden rule that requires cities and towns which receive federal money, taxpayer money, for any housing or urban development related purpose to examine whether or not there are any barriers to fair housing. So, for example, these would be along racial or ethnic lines, things like that, right? And so what it did is that the rules, and this was actually part of the Fair Housing Act passed, I believe, back in the 60s, part of the Civil Rights Act. And it was amended by President Obama in 2015 to require cities and towns, in order to receive funding from housing and urban development, to document patterns of racial bias in their neighborhoods, to publicly report the results every 3 to 5 years, and to set goals in order to reduce housing segregation, right? And so it did so by looking at the housing patterns or practices that promote bias based on any protected class under the Fair Housing Act, and to create a plan, like I said, for fixing those things. So now, why is that important to do? Well, it's important because it's said that homeownership is often one of the best ways of creating wealth, especially generational wealth, right? I'm not sure how true that is today. It's certainly a gigantic way to create debt, as I am personally, noticing, right? And well, again, housing prices are incredibly high right now. I think we're going towards another housing bubble, or actually in the middle of a housing bubble, with real estate prices so high, and of course being out of reach for many people. But look, generally, I guess I could say owning your own home, pretty good thing, right? It's nice. And in a lot of ways, it's superior to renting. And so what this rule did is basically try to promote more home ownership in the suburbs, and really to promote minority home ownership. So now there's some conservatives that are pretty unhappy about this, right? Donald Trump also not happy about this. For some reason, he likes housing segregation, keeping the minorities out of the suburbs. Maybe they like that white flight there. And now, here comes Obama back in 2015 saying we should increase black home ownership in the suburbs. Well, when he tried doing that, and when he did pass this rule, Republicans accused him of social engineering. Social engineering. Okay, hold on. Right. You should want all Americans to have a chance at living in a nice home in the suburbs if they choose, right? It's called freedom, right? Well, what's wrong with that? Well, there are racist white people happen to live in the suburbs, and a lot of them are Republican voters, and they don't want blacks in their neighborhood. That's it. I mean, generally, they fled the inner cities to go live in the suburbs. And so now they're in the suburbs. They're like, well, we don't want the black people from the inner cities coming and living in our neighborhoods. Well, so now here's the thing, right? So now those suburbs, the reason that they do very well and have generally, a pretty high standard of living, it's not because it's all white people, right? No, it's they have good schools. I mean, they have people with pretty good incomes, and the way that we fund schools in America in these neighborhoods, those neighborhoods have good schools. And of course, since you have good education, right, that leads to better outcomes no matter the race, right? And so, for example, you put a black kid in a well-funded school, very, very good chance. In fact, they got about the same chance of actually doing fairly well economically, right? And having success. Education is one of the biggest ways of becoming successful, as well as, of course, opportunity in those same neighborhoods with the nice schools and all that. And so why wouldn't we want more minority home ownership in the suburbs with the nice schools? I mean, seriously. Well, again, that it goes back to racism, right? You got a lot of Karens in the neighborhood that are pretty scared of their kids being around, those people, right? Even though, again, as I said, better education, better job opportunities, generally actually create a better socioeconomic atmosphere with lower crime rates. Yeah. And so what Donald Trump's doing is, the crime rates are going to skyrocket in these suburban areas with the low income housing. Dog whistle. It's not just a dog whistle, okay? It's a bullhorn. Everybody knows exactly what he's saying, what he's trying to do, right? Who he's trying to reach out to. Now, here's the thing. So he actually did pretty well with the suburbs. So you got white people in the suburbs, white, wealthy Republicans, essentially, in suburban areas that voted for him back in 2016. Now he's losing these areas to Joe Biden. Okay, well, so now he's trying to use the racist angle to say, well, the blacks are coming to your neighborhood. They're going to bring the crime, and they're going to bring the drugs, and they're going to lower your property values and all of that. And so basically what he's doing is again race baiting and trying to appeal to that in order to get their votes. I don't know if it'll work. I must be honest with you, right? Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Maybe people are like super disgusted at Donald Trump and are like, no, I don't believe that's going to happen, or, whatever, right? It's just one of the desperate ways, I think, that he's trying to retain the white base, right? The white Republican base, which some of the Democrats, again, because of how conservative Joe Biden is, are saying, well, Joe Biden is a Democrat that we could stomach. And so, yeah, we'd rather have him than Donald Trump, who was way, way too honest about his racism. All right. Let's see. A lot of comments here. Hold on here. Okay. With the Republican stimulus package having been introduced by the Senate, including a $2,000 per month reduction in the emergency unemployment insurance, a new study has come out to disprove the very notion behind the Republican cut. So now the Republicans, again, are claiming that this $600 benefit, right, $600 per week additional federal benefit, since it pays people more to sit home, that it basically deters people, disincentivizes people from going back to work. So Republicans say people are choosing to sit on their ass and collect that free government money because, they're lazy or they're getting paid more. And so why would you go back to that? Now, look, on its face, it's like, yeah, you know what? If you're getting paid a lot more money, why would you go back to work? Well, that's assuming that most people are lazy. There are some lazy people, but most people, no, not necessarily. And that's also reflected in this study. So now the other thing is trying to pit essential workers versus people who are unemployed through no fault of their own because of coronavirus closures, right? I think essential workers need to get paid more. I think everybody deserves a living wage for doing work. If you work, you deserve to live off your wages. That makes sense economically and morally. But again, going back to that notion that Republicans are trying to paint, it's not true. According to researchers, economists at Yale University, there's actually no evidence that the $600 weekly benefits reduce unemployment. So it's just simply not true. Findings suggested that in the aggregate, the expanded benefits neither encouraged layoffs during the pandemic's onset, nor did they deter people from returning to work once businesses began to reopen. So now, according to, like I said, what was written in the study, workers facing larger expansions in unemployment insurance benefits have returned to their previous jobs over time at similar rates as others. So even if you're getting that additional benefit, that extra $600, you're making more money, you still return to work at the same rate as everybody else. And of course, there's a reason for that. But they said, we find no evidence that more generous benefits disincentivize work either at the onset of the expansion or as firms look to return to business over time. In future research, they say, it will be important to assess whether the same results hold when states move to reopen. So, well, I'm pretty sure I didn't know the answer to that, right? And it's the way that it's set up. If your boss calls you back and you refuse, you lose your unemployment benefits. I actually don't disagree with that, right? They call you to work and they say, hey, look, we got a job waiting for you. You got your job back. Come back and work. And you say, no, I'm unemployment benefits. What are you talking about? Of course I'm going to collect money. Well, the law says you can't actually do that. Okay. So you got to go back. If you want to make money, if you want to have your job, if you want to live and pay your bills, then yeah, you go back to work, right? So now, secondly, here's the other benefit, right? So of having this money. The enhanced benefits, they all get spent back in the local economy. Okay. And that actually protects jobs in the long run. I mean, interestingly enough, I see a lot of conservatives that support the Republican benefit cuts saying, well, we are giving you too much. And if you are stupid and you can't save money, all that money, that free money that we were giving you the whole time, and now you can't pay your bills, well, that's your fault. You should have budgeted better. Well, now hold on here. Again, studies have shown that most people, the vast majority, actually spend all of that money on bills and things that they need, right? And so they don't hoard it because they use that to pay their bills. It all gets spent back into the economy. That's good. That's actually better for our service-based economy than it is to hoard the money. And so there's that. Okay. Now, of course, in order to continue helping our economy to get through this crisis, coronavirus, right, and the economic downturn, you should make sure that money is in people's pockets. And how do you do that? Stimulus. It's really simple. I say UBI, right? Income guarantee. You put money into people's pockets and they will go out and they will spend it. And that is a good tool to keep up demand and to keep people in their jobs. So now we're refusing to do that, though, obviously. I mean, look, the one-time $1,200 stimulus, or now it might be two, right? Depending on if this fourth stimulus package actually passes, what that does is, that provides a kind of a nice temporary boost, right? But it falls short of what we actually need to avoid an economic depression, especially on the other side of this virus. What we need is the plan proposed by moderate Tim Ryan and progressive Ro Khanna to temporarily give people $2,000 a month and pair it with a rent and mortgage freeze. So they continue to spend that money right back into the community and to continue keeping the essential workers at work, and then to promote job creation or at least job retention when things open back up. Because right now, a lot of small businesses have gone out of business, and a lot of small businesses will likely go out of business later on, will not be able to reopen those doors. And of course, that's a lot of jobs that are going to be lost. And by the way, the companies that have restarted opening businesses, some of the restaurants and things, right now they're only filled to half capacity, so they're not able to open back up fully right now. And so again, there are still less jobs out there than there were before because of the coronavirus shutdown. And so there's that. Now, I say rent and mortgage freeze, right? Because we have to do that rent and mortgage freeze. Because right now, if we do nothing about this, or we go with the Republican plan, which is very Spartan, right? We're going to end up seeing a lot of evictions. 11 to 12 million people will lose their shelter, their homes. That's a national emergency and a humanitarian crisis. Where are these people going to go? They lose their homes, right? I mean, they're going to go to streets during a pandemic. And I bet you, if they are, if this is what happens, right, I'm going to be happy that the government did next to nothing to help them. And so you think Portland's bad? No, wait till you get millions of people in the streets because they just lost their only place to live. Not good. So let me give you some more of the details on this, right? So now the researchers used weekly data from something called Homebase. Now, that's a company that provides timesheet software and scheduling to small businesses across the U.S. So they basically recorded their findings of people going to work, right? And that's how they were able to find their data. Now, the data does not show a relationship between benefit generosity and employment paths after the CARE Act, which could be due to the collapse of labor demand during the COVID-19 crisis, according to Joseph Altanji, the Thomas DeWitt Collier Professor of Economics in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences and a co-author of the report. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago also found a similar trend, according to MarketWatch. Those currently collecting benefits search more than twice as intensely as those who have exhausted their benefits. So again, there's a possible explanation, of course, to that. If you get to the point of running out of benefits, most likely you have exhausted the opportunities in your area. And you might have to wait or do odd jobs that are not recorded, that are under the table to be able to survive. That's it. Democrats have already passed the HEROES Act like months ago that would have addressed this, at least partly, right? And basically what they did is they extended the $600, does another round of $1,200 check. It gives some funding to the states, gives some funding to the post office, things that are basically the minimum. And they're not really rising to meet the crisis head on, but they're doing more than the Republicans, which is, I guess, not really that great of an argument for Democrats. But the Republicans, here's what they want. They want liability protection for corporations so that they can protect their corporate donors when they bring people back to work, which, look, we all want people to get back to work, right? But they're thinking that, well, I mean, if people get back to work, then they get sick at work, well, then they're going to sue their employer. Well, I mean, look, I understand that is a concern, right? But here's the thing. If you can prove that you've taken all the necessary measures to protect your employees, then what judge is really going to agree with you, right? But understand that taking those precautions, that's expensive. But if you have liability protection for 5 years, well, then you're pretty much covered. You don't have to buy protection for your employees. And if they get sick, just hire another one, because there's going to be a pretty large labor pool once this is over. And so I think that's the overall aim for this, right? So that's the Republican priority, which is Mitch McConnell's priority. But then you also have lots of money going towards buying F-35s. What do F-35s have to do with the coronavirus? I mean, okay, I guess, sure, you're going to keep some defense contractors in their job and getting money. Okay. And then they're going to build a new FBI headquarters. Ooh, lovely. Among other things, right? And so their plan is kind of like divorced from the economic reality and pretty far out there, right? So now the Democrats. Here we go. The Democrats are already saying, well, I mean, you know what? On the $600, we're going to, we can compromise. Already, we can compromise. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, here's what he said. Look, it's not $600 or bust. Pelosi said the other day, which I thought was a great line, we don't have red lines. We have values. We're going into these negotiations with values. Oh. how is it that even now the Democrats can suck so bad at politics? Oh, we lead with our values. Talk about bullshit slogans. Come on, dude. How are you so bad at being the opposition party? Like when Republicans were the opposition party, they're like, oh, that's cute. You want to do an unemployment extension? Well, you know what we want to do? We want to rip off your head and like drink your blood through your neck hole if you don't side with us. And Democrats are like, we lead with our values. We should come together in a spirit of bipartisanship. No, no, you actually have to be tough. My God, man. Look, everybody can see that the Republicans are putting the lives of millions of people on the line, right? And the only reason is so that they can get their corporate liability provision, so they can push people to go back to work sooner than we should. But they don't care about the death toll from coronavirus. They don't care how many people get sick and have permanent damage to their body after they recover. Because, yes, a lot of conservatives will point out, well, coronavirus is a gigantic recovery rate, right? Okay, but there are still probably tens of millions of people who will recover who will have permanent lasting damage for the rest of their lives. I'm talking heart problems, lung problems, liver problems, was it liver or kidney issues? Look, and we don't even know what the long-term impacts of having coronavirus is going to have on the body, because guess what? We haven't had time to study it. And so these are significant issues. And so, yeah, you're going to have tens of millions of people who now, will need medical care, which they're not going to get from obviously Republicans. And they're certainly not going to get it from Democrats either, because Joe Biden and the rest of the Democratic establishment can't even agree that healthcare is a human right. We should have Medicare for all. Yeah. And so there's that. So we have a center-right party, and then we have a pro-corporate death cult. And all the Democrats can do is say, but guys, we lead with our values. Values. Yeah. Disastrous. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break real quick here. I'm going to go thank some patrons when we get back, channel members as well, read a couple of super chats, and then, we'll get to the rest of these stories. So stay right here. Around the Nation. Be right back.
Mike Pence.
Why, you're getting nervous, man.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TWT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. A couple of comments here. Dana Fairbanks says Democrats are no more than controlled opposition. Yeah, at this point, definitely. Yep. Okay. Some more comments here because I know I've seen a lot of great ones. Dango Bango says left needs to stop hero worshiping. I agree with that. You can appreciate, of course, the things that people do, but you don't have to. I mean, you don't have to hero worship. So I agree with that 100%. Let's see. Dems suck so bad that they're going to make a cop their VP in the middle of a Black Lives Matter movement. To be fair, like, I think, okay, so there's a couple of, going to make me get into this. So there's a couple of things, right, about that I have to, like, distinguish, right? And so you guys know that ahead of time, these newspapers do that for every candidate, right? Or every possible VP choice or every possible outcome, right? That said, to have a quote in there about from Joe Biden, that's kind of weird. And the talking points that were captured on film, and I wish I had the screenshot of that, right? So there are talking points that Joe Biden had in his hand about Kamala Harris, and one of them I think was, like, don't hold grudges and things like that, and then has helped our campaign and all that stuff. And so I don't know if that's a for, like, Kamala Harris. We'll find out next week, actually, August 1st. That's when he's gonna, I think, make his announcement. At least that's when that was dated. But as far as the substance of that would be a disastrous look. I mean, Kamala Harris, oof. Look, I know you guys and myself, right, have issues with Elizabeth Warren, right? But I think it should still be her, right? Out of all the bad choices that we have, she's the least bad. And I know some of you are going to disagree with that, but that's my opinion. Tell me who you would want that is realistically of the choices that Biden has been vetting. You look at those and you tell me you'd rather have someone else than Elizabeth Warren. I'm not going to believe you. Let's just say that. I'm not going to believe you. Okay, anyway. Let's see. Lots of comments from you guys, which is great. I love that. Let's go to Super Chats, though. All right. So Star Trek says, Adrian Benefield, we'll start with you. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Appreciate that for Mrs. Waldorf. Star Trek says, happy birthday to the wife. I know what she's doing. I'm running a single patient nursing home in my house, 24/7, 365. Of course. Love Mom Tech very much. Well, we all love Mom Tech. And we hope that she is doing incredibly well and stays healthy and safe, especially during this time. And believe me when I say, Sarge, you are doing excellent work, great work. It's not an easy situation. I completely understand. My mom did that kind of work too. And so it's not easy caring, for another person. All right, more. Jedi Protector says it might be safe to say the GOP has become the Nazi party due to their callousness and indifference towards human lives. Well, no, they're not quite there yet. No, I would kind of disagree with that. They're certainly becoming a fascist party. That's true. But I guess I don't know where I would, to really draw the line to say that definitively that they are a Nazi party. They certainly love to dabble in it. But nonetheless, thank you, Koro. Thank you. And Dango Bengal says the one-party system has officially been broken into two groups, pro-fascist death cult and the pro-corporate feudal death cult. Now, that I agree more with. And so there's certainly their delineations. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys for the comments. I really do appreciate that. Let's see. Ilhan Omar can't be. Oh, talking about Ilhan Omar. Yeah. I mean, look, there's people that we would want to see, Nina Turner, and then there's people that are on Biden's short list, and that's unfortunately Warren, Susan Rice, Val Demings, Kamala Harris, and I think I don't know if Gretchen Whitmer is still on there, but she was, and so that's basically the choices that we have. It sucks. Jup James, our resident German, says, let's say they're the Nazi Party of 1930. Okay. Moving on. Speaking of some fascist shit, let's dive into the next story here after I change this sidebar here. All right. Representative Pramila Jayapal went after Attorney General William Barr over the Justice Department's hypocrisy versus when it comes to the Black Lives Matter protests versus the armed right-wing protests in Michigan. Take a look.
On two separate occasions, after President Trump tweeted, "Liberate Michigan," to subvert stay-home orders to protect the public health of people in Michigan, protesters swarmed the Michigan Capitol carrying guns, some with swastikas, Confederate flags, and one even with a dark-haired doll with a noose around its neck. Are you aware that these protesters called for the governor to be lynched, shot, and beheaded?
No.
You're not aware of that?
I was not aware of it.
Major protests in Michigan. You're the Attorney General, and you didn't know that the protesters called for the governor to be lynched, shot, and beheaded. So obviously you couldn't be concerned about that.
Well, there are a lot of protests around the United States, and on June 1st, I was worried about the District of Columbia, which is federal.
In certain parts of the country, you're very aware of those, but when protesters with guns and swastikas and Confederate flags, excuse me, Mr. Barr, this is my time, and I control it.
Damn. All right. I like that. Okay. It's kind of funny how this whole protesting works out when it comes to the right? So if you threaten Democratic governors and you show up with your guns and you're a right-wing conservative, right? I mean, you don't get ignored by Trump, right? He knows exactly what you're doing. No, you actually get elevated. And remember, the president himself, as she mentioned, egged these protesters on by calling them to liberate the states. So to use violence, right? Did they actually do violence? No. But they were prepared to. And so that was an issue, right? And so there were a lot of threats. It got so bad that Michigan's Attorney General, Dana Nessel, actually ended up getting armed protection for this. And so that's interesting. Look, they also, there's pictures, of course, of protesters getting into cops' faces. And so there's that. Now, she's going to continue with this and really kind of show the comparison, the juxtaposition between both of these. Take a look.
You are aware of certain kinds of protesters, but in Michigan, when protesters carry guns and Confederate flags and swastikas and call for the governor of Michigan to be beheaded and shot and lynched, somehow you're not aware of that. Somehow you didn't know about it, so you didn't send federal agents in to do to the president's supporters what you did to the president's protesters. In fact, you didn't put pepper balls on those protesters. So the point I'm trying to make here, Mr. Barr, that I think is very important for the country to understand, is that there is a real discrepancy in how you react as the Attorney General, the top cop in this country, when white men with swastikas storm a government building with guns. There is no need for the president to, quote, activate you because they're getting the president's personal agenda done. But when black people and people of color protest police brutality, systemic racism, and the president's very own lack of response to those critical issues, then you forcibly remove them with armed federal officers, pepper bombs because they are considered terrorists by the president. You take an aggressive approach to Black Lives Matter protests, but not to right-wing extremists threatening to lynch a governor if it's for the president's benefit. Did I get it right, Mr. Barr?
Yeah, she got it right. Now, obviously, Barr did not agree. So now, here's the thing. I know there's a lot of claims like, you understand, the right wing, they don't do any violence. You guys remember the Bundy clan? The Bundy clan, these are the guys who wanted to let their cattle graze on federal lands, right? So basically, they want to be freeloaders and despoil public land, because it turns out cattle grazing is actually really damaging towards land. Well, now they literally forced their way and took over federal property and aimed guns at federal agents. Actually, there were also Bundy protesters that Bundy affiliated that actually did engage in a shootout with police. Do you know how they're perceived by the right wing? Heroic. But hey, if you protest mostly peacefully, right, as the vast majority of these protesters in Portland were, against the unjustified murder of black people by the police, state-sanctioned violence, by the way, if you're supporting that, doesn't that make you a bootlicker? I know how they can't seem to square that circle. Like, yes, I'm anti-government. I don't like the big boot of government. But I like it when it's on your neck. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. But okay. Nonetheless, William Barr, the right, if you're protesting against that state-sanctioned violence, well, you must be a terrorist. Really. So I've talked about this before. A lot of the protesters in Portland, again, activists, but you also have the wall of moms, dads with leaf blowers, veterans, and other people who are fed up with the injustice. Yet, Trump called them deranged anarchists. Which, by the way, there's a story that came out today. Some of the property damage, and the right likes to bring this up, right? You remember I did the story on the Umbrella Man, right? So we didn't know who that guy was, but he was out there breaking windows. Had his umbrella, breaking, windows like at an AutoZone or something. And I was like, who is this guy? And why is he smashing up private property, right? Well, it turns out that guy's a white supremacist. So there are white supremacists that go into these protests and they start fires, they smash windows, and who gets blamed for it? The vast majority of the peaceful protesters. I'm not saying that there never was a protester that was legitimate that was going in there and looting or smashing up private property, but there are instigators that get sent into these as well to stir that up. And so to make, of course, things look bad. And so, of course, that's why you get Trump and the rest of the Republicans saying, well, see, look, they're terrorists. They're terrorists. We're just protecting federal property. By the way, that's the excuse that he used when it came to Portland versus Michigan. Well, we're just defending government property. And there wasn't any government property in Michigan, so we couldn't send in the troops even if we wanted to, right? Sorry, wish we could have helped, but our hands are tied. Were they? Well, at least according to Politico's Zach Stanton, those Michigan protesters were actually about 100 yards away from the Chamberlain Federal Building, which is a federal property. So you could have had a situation where they could have sent in peacekeeping troops to that area, just to make sure that no actual violence were to break out. Because again, there were a lot of threats, and these people were armed. Which again, in the Portland protests, very few people were armed, and so I wonder if William Barr knew that. Now, look, I could forgive him for not actually knowing that particular thing. But one of his staffers could have known. Somebody knew. Somebody could have told him. Although, of course, that wouldn't have made a difference because he wouldn't have cared. This country goes out of its way to excuse right-wing terrorists. Republicans always seem to defend that. Right-wing terror in this country has killed more than Islamic fundamentalist terror, even though, yes, they are a significant issue. But what happened when we basically tried to point out, hey man, look, we've got these domestic far-right groups that are killing police officers, right? That are endangering people, stockpiling weapons, arms, right? And so, like, what are we going to do about them? We try to investigate them. Republicans complain, and we actually end up deprioritizing them and prioritizing Islamic fundamentalism, because guess what? That was the narrative for years. Scary Muslims. Got to protect ourselves against the scary Muslims. And yet, you have right-wing anti-government groups that are responsible for anti-police violence. But what are we talking about now? We're talking about Antifa, the Antifers, who are responsible for how many deaths? None. Although, to be fair, the amount of milkshaking and Nazi punching has skyrocketed. And so, I guess that's an issue, right? But it's important to point out the amazing hypocrisy of our federal government that coddles right-wing extremism. I mean, for example, and this isn't really federal, but you want to look at the local police forces, right? Dylan Roof, after he shot and killed 8 African Americans in a church, cops bought him a cheeseburger. And yet, police officers in a different city killed Breonna Taylor as she was sleeping. Tamir Rice died within 12 seconds. Freddie Gray got a nickel ride on his way to jail. Walter Scott was shot in the back as he was running away. Eric Garner was choked out for selling loose cigarettes. George Floyd had a knee on his neck for a bounced check. Do you understand the difference here? Do you understand how our institutions of power tend to favor right-wing versus how they treat people of color? Apparently, in this country, you have to, in order to have your First Amendment rights to protest, you've got to be white, heavily armed, and a conservative. Now, if you're, and some people might say, well, you know what? Then the left should get guns too. Actually, it's probably not a good idea. Because, again, even if you have guns, they're not going to respect your Second Amendment rights as a left-winger. I mean, in fact, gun control back in Ronald Reagan's time, the old Black Panthers, not the new ones, but the old Black Panther Party, they're the ones that marched on their state capitals with guns, doing the exact same thing that the right-wing protesters were doing, just coming in, using their Second Amendment rights in order to do protest. And Ronald Reagan passed gun controls restricting them taking their gun rights. And so these right-wingers, if you're a leftist, they're going to send the troops, they're going to trample all over your First Amendment rights. And that's it. All right. Let's go to Louis Gohmert. Representative Louis Gohmert has reportedly tested positive for the coronavirus. So now he was spotted without a mask before a hearing on Capitol Hill on Tuesday and was tested before he was supposed to travel to Texas with President Trump. So now during a pre-screening for the trip, according to Politico, he had tested positive. And so now he's not going to be able to go on that trip. It sucks. Sad day for him, right? So now Gohmert did wear a mask during a House Judiciary Committee meeting, or hearing, where Attorney General Bill Barr had been testifying. But a reporter for The Hill said that they spotted Gohmert greeting Barr without a mask prior to the hearing. She said, would say from memory, they were within arm's length away from each other. And then finally, she also said that, oh, turns out I've got video of this. Let's take a look.
So how do you think today will go?
I mean, that's pretty close. And you can see William Barr not wearing a mask, Louis Gohmert not wearing a mask, inside pretty close to each other. Oh, see, masked for the cameras, but not anywhere else. Well, that's how you get the Rona. And so, you know who it's also not good for? William Barr. Because, again, they were in contact with each other yesterday, and he's got the Rona today. So Bill Barr, he's going to get tested. In fact, according to a Justice Department spokeswoman, today William Barr will be tested, and we will, I guess, eventually find out what happens. But let me tell you what, this is what happens when you're dumb. Louis Gohmert is not a smart person. He's not a very stable genius, right? And the problem is, again, the people who work around him, his staffers, and other Congress people and their staff, they could all have been infected by coronavirus. So this is the problem. You have Republican lawmakers, mostly Republican lawmakers, who refuse to mask up. They just don't do it. Why would you not do that? I mean, masks have been shown to be, so far, the most effective way at not spreading coronavirus to other people indoors. So why would you not do that? How dumb are you? I mean, look, unfortunately, and I hate doing this, right? I hate this idea, but I'm in favor of it. If that makes any sense, we have to make masks compulsory. You have to. I know. I hate the idea of, and this is why I don't like it, right? I don't like it because of the enforcement angle. I hate the idea of making authority figures, police, what have you, enforce mask mandates, because I know how that's going to go for the Black community. But at the same time, we have to have masks. They have to be mandatory, because if you leave it to the choice of some people, well, they're going to choose stupidly. And so see, if it was their choice and only they were affected by the consequences of their choices, well, then I don't care. Do whatever you want. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, whatever, right? Doesn't affect me. I'm not going to get sick from you. But that's not the case with this. That's not the case here. This is a very contagious virus, okay? And understand, like, most of the Congress people are fossils. They're old. They're in the higher risk category. And so if you were one of those people, why would you not wear a mask? Why would you not? It doesn't make sense to me at all. It's so dumb and short-sighted, and it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. And here's the most frustrating thing, right? And this is why I call Republicans a death cult. Because understand that Republicans will look at this and go, no, it's his choice. And you know what? Let's not wear masks. We're going to do it to own the libs. See, it's kind of that bullshit of, I'm going to screw you over, right? And I'm going to put my health in danger and your health in danger to screw you over. That's the problem with these people, because it's my freedom to do so. No, it's not. It's petty. It's vindictive. It's malicious. And unfortunately, there are people like that are like, yes, absolutely. That's what we should do to the libs, because we hate them. It's disgusting. It's super sad, and I absolutely hate it. Mask up, people. Don't be a Gohmert, and just wear the damn mask. All right. I'm out of time. So thank you guys for tuning in. Round the Nation right here on Waldorf Nation. Love that. We're going to be back on Monday. You guys have an excellent few days off. Please try to, my advice is to try to get away from the news as much as possible. I know it's basically really hard to do. I get that because, our little country is maybe not literally burning, but it's kind of like a garbage fire at this point. And you don't really want to leave that to go sort itself out. But at the same time, you got to take some time for your own sanity, your own mental well-being. Because if you're not all together, you're not going to be good for this fight. And so you got to take some self-care time. All right. And so I'm just urging you all to do that. All right. That's it. Thank you guys for the super chats. I may have one here that I haven't read yet, so let's get to that. Lauren MW says, "This is my time and I control it." I need that auto-tune to my favorite empowerment song. I do love that. That was an excellent moment. Love it. All right. That's it. Thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, Nation. We'll see you all on Monday.
Please clap.
Tolerize. Mike Pence.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.